Okay. Right, welcome to the Nairnshire Committee of the 26th of May. And we'll move first. There's no apologies, Mark. Everybody's here. So we'll go to declarations of interest or transparency statements. If there's any declarations and transparency statements. No, that's fine. There's no hands up. Okay, we'll go to the good news, of which there's quite a lot.
Sorry, hang on, Michael. My thing threw a wobbly. Common Good Fun. I'm a member of the Nairn Games Committee, so I won't take part in that part of the discussion.
Okay, if you feel that's necessary, Laurie.
Yeah,
that's fine. Thank you for that. Okay, good news stories. I've got three. Congratulations, firstly, to Nairn Golf Club for hosting the Ladies UK Amateur Championship, 9th to 14th of June. This is a globally prestigious tournament. Great credit to all involved at Nairn Golf Club. And I imagine the Nairn hotels, restaurants, bars and shops will be buzzing for that whole week. The second thing, again, a sporting theme. Congratulations to Nairn Sydney Indian Football Club. They've reached the final of the Domino Regional Cup, and that's been held on the 31st of May. And that's against Cooter from Aberdeen FC, and it's been held at Burghead. And well done, Saints, and Mark, who's heavily involved as first team coach. Well done, guys. The last bit I have before I hand over to other members is that the service point has got extended opening hours. These will be publicised on the website. That's pending, but it's from Monday, Wednesday and Friday mornings from 9:30 to 12:30, and Tuesday and Thursday afternoons 1:30 to 4:30. So the signage will be going up to actually list that and the times, and that's to be welcomed. So I'll open it up for other good news stories, and I'll go first to Councillor Jarvie. Councillor Jarvie, have you anything you wish to say?
Oh yes, before I disappear again. Yes, I do. Okay, and it's like a bit of Nairn's fair share. That we had a presentation at the partnership thing the other night by Susie Webster from the income maximisation team, and we actually have 3 staff at the courthouse to assist people with arrears and trying to maximise their income of benefits they think they might not be entitled to but are. That can open doors, so really worth getting in touch through the newly longer opening service point. Well done there, to make an appointment there. And also via the Poverty Commission funding of 800,000, Nairn are getting 2 more staff to join that team, and hopefully they'll be helping lots of people to with their bills and get the council tax arrears paid off and rent arrears, and relieve a lot of stress and worry for people. So that's a great service in there I wasn't aware of, but I'm now. The partnership, Lynn McNeil's funded for 2 more years, which is really good, because that has been, I feel, the key mechanism that has made that partnership a whole lot better. We now have minutes, we now have regular meetings. The shared chair of police and fire has avoided the constant rescheduling and cancellation of meetings, which was so inconvenient before, but none have been cancelled, and that is going forward. Really good engagement there. And there's, I must say, we have Sandra Brown, who of the wellbeing team. There are still grants of up to £10,000 of the wellbeing funding, closing, I think it's the 30th of May. So either look at the partnership website or contact Sandra Brown, but up to £10,000, and it's a short, simple form. It's been underclaimed in Nairn, so can Nairn grab its fair share? Thank you.
Okay.
Debt of gratitude to Roz Phillips from the Nairn Community Hospital. She has been decades in the healthcare and has done a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of input to Nairn, runs a really tight ship, and she is off on her well-deserved retirement. And we have Cara McNaught in her place, who was at the meeting the other night. Picnic in the Riverside Park in June. Anyone wants to donate raffles or tombolas, please go there. It's a great event for anyone any age. I think that's me.
Okay, thanks, Babs. I'll move. Paul, have you anything you wish to say?
Yeah, a couple of things. And the first bit of good news, we actually have some good news from out of Delners, which is nice. As of Friday, I haven't been out that way, so this is all on, but as of Friday, we're meant to have the road open through the roundabout. The speed limits are now being moved, which was all agreed by Southpack back in the summer last year. So now it's a 40 limit at just around the Aldersia junction and goes down to 30 at the roundabout. So the good news for me and Councillor Fraser is that the Welcome to Nairn signs are now horizontal, which they weren't before, and now further out. And the good news for the people living on the west side of Nairn is traffic is now doing 30 miles an hour past their houses rather than 40. And the roundabout is providing some very nice traffic calming for that. The other thing I wanted to mention more locally, Mark's been doing some good work on getting the paths in Kingstep Quarry improved. Second round of that was completed this week, and residents are very pleased with that, which is good. And talking of fair shares, this was funded not out of community regeneration funding, but Mark found funding from another source. I'm sure that'll be forgotten the next time people are going about how Nairn isn't getting its fair share, but we did very nicely out of that. So that's good news. Thank you.
No, that's good. Thanks, Paul. Laurie.
No, you've pretty well covered all of it actually before I got started. So apart from we're trying to get the 30 mile per hour sign out, 30 mile per hour limit down to 20 out on the Forest Road. We'll wait and see what happens with that. And that's it.
Right. Thanks, Laurie. Okay. Thanks, guys. So lots of good news. We'll move on to the first item on the agenda, number 4.
Which is Mark's got his hand up.
Okay, sorry.
So can I just come in there? It's just to kind of reiterate on the service point, the opening hours from the 2nd of June. So as of next Monday.
Okay, and there'll be adequate signage going up outside to, okay, that's super. Okay. Apologies there, Mark. Right, we'll move on to item 4, which is the Highland Charities Trust, and I'll hand over to Mark for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Chair. So in front of you members, we have a paper for allocation of funds from the Nairn and Aldern Poor Fund. Approval today is to allocate £2,000 from the Nairn and Aldern Poor Fund to the People's Pot, which is a hardship fund administered by the Citizens Advice Bureau to support the residents of Nairn and Nairnshire. Just as a bit of background to this, previously members, you approved a total of £2,000 in November 2024, which supported 41 individuals and it supported vulnerable families during the Christmas period that weren't eligible for any other source of income. The trial was deemed successful, and the mechanisms that CAB have at the minute through the People's Pot are already in place. So today, members, I ask that we approve the £2,000 allocation to hardship fund and confirm CAB's continued administration of the fund.
Thank you, Mark. Before I open it up, I would just say thanks to Jill McLean. I'm sure this is from all of us, and our wonderful team at the Nairn CAB for the work done in administering the disbursements. £2,000 is not a lot, but there are reasons that it's limited to that amount, and we're looking to facilitate maybe larger amounts further down the line with modified procedures. So the message is well done to Jill. We'd like to do more, and hopefully we're able to do that in the fullness of time. So I'll open that up and I'll go to Paul first. Paul.
Yes, Chair. Mark, I did have a question. I mean, I don't disagree. This is really good, and this is what we should be doing with this money. I do have a question for Mark though. I noticed that on both the Nairn Aldern Poor Fund and also the Nairn Children's Fund, that about 50% of each of those funds is capital. And I don't know how that's tied up. I'm wondering whether, I think our long-term aim here, I think, is just to run these funds down and to actually dispense them. I wonder where we are with the capital elements of those. Is that going to be possible?
Thanks, Paul. At this point, I haven't looked into spending any capital at this point, but it's certainly something I think as we move forward we can work on and how we utilise these funds. So certainly we can continue the discussion on that.
Okay. Yes, I think we all share Councillor Oldham's sentiments that the amounts of money there, it's as well to spend them. They are relative terms quite small, and I think that for the paperwork and the sort of various things that have to go with it, it'd be as well to just give it over to the CAB if and when things allow. So I don't see any hands up from either Councillor Fraser or Councillor Jarvie. So we'll just go to the recommendation, and that is the committee is to agree to allocate funds from Nairn and Alderm Poor Fund to be used as a form of hardship fund to serve the people of Nairn and Nairnshire. And 2, that the Nairn Citizens and Advice Bureau administers the fund as part of the People's Pot currently administered by CAB. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yes,
Right.
good plan.
Yep. Thank you. We'll now move on to, and this will be a substantial item, 5A, which is the Nairn Common Good Fund, and we'll deal with this in 3 sections, which will be firstly the management plan, second the position of the Common Good Development Officer, and lastly the engagement group. So I'll come to Mark to give us, there's a very large paper and there's an awful lot done there, and well done to Mark. I'm sure Ali's fed into that as well. So I'll come to Mark first just to give us a wee overview or any particular points he wants to make about the management plan. Mark.
Thanks, Chair. In front of you members, what I've done with this paper is I've set out the last sort of 12 months on progress we've done around asset maintenance, community engagement and sort of development planning. So essentially we have a statutory duty to maintain all our assets, which myself and our Common Good Development Officer have been working on. We have a plan in place for that, and we've been slowly working away at dealing with a lot of the issues and just tidying up lots of areas, and we'll continue to do so. We have a list of an asset register that's already circulated from legal. We've related that into our own spreadsheet, which we work from. We've sort of checked all the conditions, etc., of all the assets, and we'll just keep working forward on that basis. I think it's good to point out that the update itself is predominantly around how we manage our assets in terms of maintenance and the work that's gone into that, because I think it's been a really important thread, and it outlines in the paper as well what we've done, but also outlines what we're planning on doing moving forward. And I have made reference as well in the papers to sections where the funding has come from external sources, like the path at Marine Road. We've done work out East Beach, which is not common good land, but it's worth noting that improvement works has been done to improve access onto the harbour area. This year through CRF funding, we've got the beach showers project which will be developed there, and like I say, we're working with property team with regards to repairs at Viewfield House, and that budget will come from the property team and not the common good. So I think it's just to really kind of show that, while over previous years, maybe there's not been as much maintenance going into our assets, there's been a lot of legacy issues, we're making strides to deal with them and work on that basis in a positive vein. So that's just about the section on the maintenance part of things.
Okay. Right. Firstly, before I open it up, and well, I haven't seen any hands yet, I'd like to thank Mark, yourself, and Ali Garrow, the Community Development Officer, for all the hard work and the effort you have in bringing forward this proposal. I have to say that there's real top levels of transparency and professionalism to both the operation and workings of all aspects of the funds, and opening up the assets, especially the links for greater use across a wide range of activities. We're seeing that benefit come through even in increased income, and that will continue to grow. So there's, you're doing a great job there, guys. So continue with that. I think it's appropriate to recommend and recognise that. So I'll open this up if there's anybody wishes to comment on the first point, the maintenance plan.
Yeah. It's a very good. I'll go first. A very good report. Very pleased with it. The only thing I would pick it up on is 5.7. The Team Hamish. I feel we need a PowerPoint there for anyone putting on some form of production, a band, a group, a drama, because they will need power or electricity there. Just a small point. We could plan that in the budget maybe for the next year or two. It's not a major thing, but it's something we're gonna get asked for it sooner or later.
Okay, thanks, Laurie. I'll come to Babs.
Yes, agreeing with Laurie, PowerPoint is key down there to open it up for our community to have more scope to do things down there. And as far as the progress, it's great to see progress, because when we first came in before this group things were kind of stagnating in circles with no direction, whereas we have plans, actions and directions. So, and there's still things going forward, and Ali's doing a cracking job. So yes, which kind of covers part number 2. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Babs. Paul.
Yeah, I'm serious to disagree with what other members have said. The only thing I would just highlight is that on the Team Hamish area, I'm a little concerned that we are already seeing it used as a performing space.
I know.
And when this came to planning,
it was not for performance.
It wasn't for performing, and indeed they will need to have licenses, public entertainment licenses, if we're going to have events happening there. This is one of the things that concerned the residents of the Royal Marine Flats, and quite rightly they were told that they didn't need to be too concerned because this would be done in a managed way. And I've noticed, I've seen 1 or 2 things on social media where there's been events happening, and I've gone, yeah, was that actually approved? And is this? I just have worry. What I don't want us to find ourselves in a situation where we get a conflict here, where the people in the flats feel that they've been put on when they were told up front that this wouldn't happen. So we just need to watch that and just handle that carefully. Thank you.
Okay. No, I take the point, Paul. It was as a contemplation area, etc. It was not as a performance venue. So there's a line that can't be crossed there. If folk wish to do things, then they have to apply through the appropriate channels, and it has to be flagged up. It's not just a given, and we can't allow that sort of creep to allow, if the truth be known.
Valid point, Paul.
Yes,
Babs.
no, that's a strong point. I mean, maybe actually need a bit of signage there, you know, with who to contact, the ward, Ali. I don't think anyone's been charging down there for doing anything. I think it's just been sporadic.
Well used. It's well used.
Yeah, which is,
yes, but it has to be well used for the purpose that it was designed and permissions were given. It cannot be used, as I say, it can't just start to be developed because it lends itself to that. There was assurances given to the residents that wouldn't happen. So, you know, we've just got to be wary. There's a procedure to be followed, and the folk who wish to put these things on, we have a plan in place. If they wish to apply, then they have to go through the appropriate process. But
it has to be respectful.
Yes,
so,
yes, totally. Okay, so we've had a fair discussion on that. So, Mark.
Yeah, just come in on the performance side of things. So we have had the approaches around it, and it's in hand with the Common Good Development Officers working on that. So I'll pick that up again this week with Ali and see where things are. But it's one we are aware of. People have come and asked, and we have had buskers down there, which has been welcomed, and it has been sort of positive in terms of the feedback. So, but I appreciate that obviously the planning conditions that's there. So we'll pick that up this week.
Okay. Now this was not structured, but allows us to seamlessly move into the second part of this, which is the position of the Common Good Development Officer. So thank you for that sort of intro there, Mark. I would just say for myself that when you see the scale of operations that the Common Good is involved in across many areas, these things don't happen by chance. You need capacity. You need somebody that knows what they're doing, and Ali Garrow has done that. He's done a remarkable job. So I'll just hand over to Mark, but I would firstly say, I reiterate, I think Ali Garrow has done a wonderful job as the Common Good Development Officer, and I hope he continues in post. Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the section that's outlined, I've really highlighted the benefit of having this development officer in place. It's been an absolute pleasure to be working with Ali in Nairn, but also Ali has approached things in such a systematic way, and it's a very sensible approach to how we do things. We have a links development plan which was picked up from the start, which we've worked through, and in the paper you'll see updates on that links development plan where a lot of the items are on a ragged basis. Ali's worked tirelessly on that with support myself and guidance in terms of the council and how the council structure works, and we work very collaboratively on it. But he's also, a great focal point for everyone in there to speak to and contact. Just had Councillor Fraser come in saying the something's happened with the laptop there. So I've outlined in the paperwork, what he's done, and one of the big things it's been a massive benefit to us is the lettings charging framework. This is our second year now. It's been developed there. We've been working on income generation, and also the third point, the Common Good Engagement Group and Ali's role there in facilitating that. So there has been financial benefits of the post, but there's been a lot of non-financial benefits, and I think that's one of the key points that I would like to raise. Where we would like to make more savings and generate more income. We have had issues with certain projects in terms of getting that up and running, but we're working towards that. But the non-financial benefits is the single point of contact, which is reducing reliance on our legal team. It's also the partnership side of things, to strengthen relationships with the common good and stakeholders in Nairn and Nairnshire. And obviously, just the development is continued progress and initiatives outlined in section 6.2. As I said, for myself and Ali, we are a resource which is heavily used in Nairn, and moving forward with local place plan aspirations and continuing to work with the links, and also looking at developing the riverside. It's a really vital role for us moving forward. And I'd like to thank Ali for all his work and help as we've gone on in my first sort of 12, 14 months in Nairn.
Okay, absolutely. I think everybody would echo the sentiments and thank Ali for his efforts and his work. It's been remarkable, and you see the scale and breadth of what's all involved. So I think we're waiting for Councillor Fraser, but in the interim, I don't see any hands up from either Councillors Oldham or Jarvie. So we'll move on.
Actually,
sorry, Babs.
Sorry, yes, it was
sorry, Babs. Paul's got his hands up ahead of you there, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo my happiness with coming out in the role. I mean, going back to what we were saying before, the improvement we've seen in the management of the common good over the last 12 months with Mark and Ali working together to produce such a good job has been really excellent. I think the thing that disappointed me, going on to the next item briefly, is I understand there were some negative comments by some of the people who responded to the Common Good Engagement Group review, which I think I haven't seen them, but if they were criticising Andy, I think it's very unfortunate, because he seems to be doing a really excellent job for us and for the community. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Okay. Councillor Jarvie.
Yeah, agreeing with Paul there. Yes, Ali's so approachable for everybody, and you need that in good business, and it's been run like a business. But what I actually really like, because it's common good, is that he's considering the well-being of people in Nairn and the whole well-being spaces going forward, and encouraging well-being groups to get out there, use these spaces for free, and just getting people out is so good for everyone's health of all ages, and he's got a strong focus on that. So that in itself is an asset. It's worth its weight in gold there, and you can't put a price on it if people are feeling better with doing these things. The progress with the next stage, create a riverside development plan. Now, is that just for Riverside Park, or is that from the harbour right down the whole river, including the actual river that goes up to the Howford? There's more than just the part, it's the whole stretch, and the other side.
Okay, I'll get Mark.
The running bit.
I'll get Mark to address that point. Mark.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Hey, Councillor Jarvie, just in terms of the Riverside Development Plan, myself and Ali discussed at great detail that there is, and it's been brought up at many meetings, the focus is about the links and improving the links. We both feel that with appropriate funding and potentially additional resource that we can do a good engagement session around the Riverside, but encapsulate the whole area. So the river paths, right up to the Howford and the park, the whole lot, because we feel that it's an area it's so sorely lacking in there, and in terms of focus and a plan to really try and take forward. I think looking at the successes we've had through the Links Development Plan, we see that as a great model that we can use, that we've got a really good reference point. So when we do apply for external funding and we're looking at funding bids, we've got a robust plan in place that represents the views of the community and their aspirations for the area, because we're getting quite a lot of dribs and drabs in terms of things that need looked at and improved. And I think if we can get a plan that looks at right across the board, that complements our local place plan and the community's views, I think that'd be a really, really good positive step for Nairn moving forward. But that's something that I think we need to scope out and have a brief there that would capture everything we want to do in that.
Great, and have an action plan for it like this, so people can follow the stages, and depending what pots of money comes up for what bit gets done. No, that sounds really good.
Okay. Now, we've got a slight dilemma here because, well, I think we can agree points 1 and 2. I think there may be some debate around point 3. So if we're all agreed that we can note points 1 and 2, I think that if we're agreed on that, then I think we could defer point 3 till Councillor Fraser comes online. Because at the end of the day, if we need to have this democratically agreed. So if my colleagues are agreed to that, we would, if you're comfortable with the recommendations 1 and 2, agree to note the progress over the last 12 months in relation to the Nairn Common Good Fund with section 5 of the report, and secondly, the progress made by the Nairn Common Good Officer, and agree an extension to the current post for a further 2-year period as outlined in section 6. Are we agreed, the three of us?
Yeah.
Yes, but there's an agree in there. So can we just come back to it when Laurie's...
That's what I say, we'll come back to 3 in a minute.
Clock back
in.
Yeah,
we'll come back to 3.
We could do 5. We could do 5B now because Laurie's declared a conflict of interest on 5B, so we could go on to that one and come back to 5A in a minute. Yeah.
I beg your pardon. What do you want to do, Paul? Sorry.
I say we can go on to 5B because Laurie's declared a conflict of interest on that anyway, which is the Common Good Fund Allocation from the Games Committee. This would be an ideal time to do that one, and we can come back to 5A.
He want to comment.
Yes.
So, which is fair enough. Respect that.
Right. Sorry, I'm just switching that phone off. My apologies. Yes, if you're happy with that, we can move on to 5B. Are we? Okay.
Members, can I just ask just quickly for a pause? I just want to check if Councillor Fraser's still in the building. He did come through, so I'll just go and double check if he's okay.
Okay. So if we can agree to, can we just suspend the meeting for 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, give him a bit of time.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kettle on.
Okay. And its findings. Okay, I'll hand over to you now, Mark, just to give us a brief overview. I think it's pretty much in the papers, but if there are a few points you want to make.
So the Common Good Engagement Group has been a group which was agreed and set up through yourselves, members. Our Common Good Development Officer has been working on the development of the group. We've had 4 meetings. The first 2 meetings were largely educational type meetings, and we moved into more kind of core business. The meetings themselves, obviously, have been largely attended across the community and many groups, and it was agreed in the minute at the committee that we would review after 12 months. So our Common Good Officer has sent out a questionnaire. All the feedback is contained within the report in the appendix, and also that we have provided 3 options how we progress things moving forward. From an officer's perspective, I have found I've found the meetings very useful for me, and it's allowed me to integrate myself within Nairn, within all the groups, and talk about common good. The group itself has been, you know, I think it's worked very well in terms of the stuff that the items we've been able to discuss. There has been challenges around what we do discuss, but also challenges about changes of policy, legal governance, charging, historical things that as officers at this point we can't have any influence and change. So what we've done is we've set out the 3 options. Option 1 is to carry on as we are. Option 2 is the officer's recommendation, is that we change the terms of reference to divide business into existing community groups. Now, I'm trying to avoid duplication, so we have the community planning partnership. So when there is partnership working around projects or items related to common good, we take them to the partnership because they're actually a statutory group. The Common Good Engagement Group is not a statutory group and does not sit within the scheme of establishment as a decision-making board. It's where they use the group as a way to engage around items that we're looking at and how we take things forward to get views. Now, this has worked quite well when we talked about the Community and Arts Centre. We did a very quick consultation process around the award last year. I think by having a group, that really aided us in terms of moving that forward. We haven't had any other statutory consultations, so you know, when there is a statutory consultation, everyone will be consulted that needs to be. So it doesn't need to be a key item at the group to have long debate. Everyone will get a chance to be consulted. What I would say is that the option 2 allows us to continue the group, and I feel from an officer perspective that is advantageous for us to take it forward. You see the feedback, and I think the option 2 reflects the feedback. And what we want to try and do is keep the momentum of the group, keep the positivity. I think one of the great successes as well was the linking in with Nairn Access Panel and then Nairn Beach wheelchairs around progressing options of the Nairn Links toilets. And they're working with us on that, and we're trying to just develop that brief and allow us to get funding to develop the design of the brief. So, as I said, option 2 for myself is what the officer's proposal is. That's our recommendation, and I'll seek any comments from yourselves around the group.
Thanks. I'll just 1 or 2 things say before I go to Councillor Oldham. I think this has been a really worthwhile exercise. I think it's a valuable role, the engagement group, in getting feedback from the community. And I was delighted, especially as Mark's already referenced, the support for the Nairn Community and Arts Centre. Also, the unanimous support for creation of the Hardship Fund. So there's a lot of positive projects that are getting support across the board. Not only are they a sounding board, and they are a sounding board, which going forward it'll be officers' time that will be involved in that primarily. So if they're keen to support it, I'm keen to support it. But I also have to say that they've brought a lot of new ideas to the table. So it's a very valuable forum. And as I say, I would very much keen to option 2 and to continue in the revised format. But others may agree or disagree. And I'll hand over to Councillor Oldham. Paul.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mark, I confess I don't really understand option 2. There's lots of words there, and there's obviously something good there, but I just couldn't quite. For a start, we are still talking about having common good engagement groups as before, at the same frequency as before.
No.
So, what's changing? I mean, are the things that are not going to be talked about at the common good engagement group because they've gone to the community partnership, or could you expand on exactly how the split happens? I don't really understand it.
Like what we're trying to do is change the terms of reference in terms of the business. Now, as we said, it's not a scrutiny board. It's not so we're wanting to try and just come with update on progress, but also look for partnership working in terms of how we progress common good projects or initiatives that are there. We want to take out the business that's duplicated, so we can be talking about the common good engagement group, then talking about the community planning partnership. What we want to try and do is say, right, that'd be an item for the community planning partnership, and we want to take that there. So it's about the agenda setting, and also just
in terms of just keeping the business focused, because one of the things I would say is that some of the businesses around trying to change policy. Now, we can't change any policy. We have no locus to do so. It's not a committee, so we can't, we're not want to do that. So it's just revising the terms of reference and just trying to take the business into the other meetings around, Paul, because you've got Nairn delivery groups and local place plan, you've got NCAT, you've got community planning partnership. The community planning partnership is only statutory group, so whether there is an option to take the business, it's actually just creating a business agenda and it goes to the right places rather than forming duplication. So it's just subtle changes, but also in terms of the terms of reference, to change the term of reference, we're going to include a bit about respect and diligence within that as well, just so everyone's on the same page and how we progress things. I hope that's made sense.
Yeah, I'll come to Paul. Laurie may have his hand up, but I'll come to Laurie after Paul. Paul.
And one of the things that slightly concerns me, I mean, Barbara has been more engaged with this than I have lately, but one of the problems I've found with the community planning partnership historically is that it wasn't actually people from Nairn. And I do worry a bit about the situation where we are pushing out to organisations which are only peripheral, which are involved in Nairn but aren't Nairn organisations, and saying, what's your view on this common good issue? That doesn't, I'm just a bit, I mean, as perhaps Councillor Jarvie can comment on this, but my perception always of the planning partnership is it definitely felt like a bunch of people from all over Highland that were coming to talk about Nairn. And it wasn't people from Nairn that would talk about Nairn. That does concern me a bit.
Can I come back in there, Michael?
Okay, yeah, okay. Mark.
With regards to that, Paul, I totally get your point. We have the NCAT group as well, which sits underneath, and if there's projects the NCAT group want to do within Common Good that are, a real Nairn project, then we have the opportunity to take that business there rather than duplicating it. Because I felt that there's 4 meetings I'm having and we're talking about the same things across the board. So it's just trying to be smarter and how we work the agenda. Now, I totally appreciate the concern around not being Nairnshire folk at the CPP, but maybe when we are starting to put business in the agenda that relates to it, then the people who are involved and affected will come to the meeting as well. So it's definitely a test and learn process in what we're proposing here.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Barbara?
Yeah, okay, I totally get where Paul is coming from, because historically you weren't part of this, Mark. The partnership had upward of 120 people, and we would have meetings that went on literally for hours of, hour-long presentations of people that weren't coming to Nairn, never been to Nairn, but were doing presentations, and there just wasn't time and space for Nairn people's voices, and people drifted away. It was disastrous. But this time round, that has been axed. The whole invite is Nairn focused people in Nairn. Are you coming to Nairn? Are you doing something for Nairn? Do you benefit Nairn? And there's points of questioning for all these people, not this item done, next, fine, see you next time, and cancelled meetings. The organisation is so much better because we have got chairs every time, so the meetings go ahead with the co-chair thing, which is really good, because yet again our police commander has changed, which can't be helped, but at least we have the fire safety officer, Nick Nethercott. He chaired it this week, so there is that, the meeting goes ahead, which is really important, not to take people off. But yeah, it's more local focus with action plans, which didn't happen, and minutes, which didn't happen, and an up-to-date website, which didn't happen. It's that all we can do is reflect on the lessons learned, and it is going forward. That's way it's been slow, but it is moving in a more useful direction for people.
Okay. Well,
so that's good. Okay, I've got a question for Mark.
Okay, carry on, Bob.
Over this querying this, but at so point 3, agree option 2. Okay, the bit you were saying about, yes, It's the engagement group is a non-statutory body. That's been clear from the start. We've needed a few reminders on it. Right, so to progress the group and carry on these meetings, because I think they're really productive and it's taken things forward positively for Nairn. So in the feedback, the survey feedback in Appendix 3, there's the 50-50 split. A lot of the feedback is quite clear answers, but there's a 50-50 split on the representatives. Should we have 2 from each community council or not? Now, that decision needs made before the next meeting, because who do you invite? Do you invite 2 or do you invite 1? So my part 2 of that was, when you fed out this survey, to be fair to the community councils, we did say at the initial meetings for the training and enlightening, meetings of enlightenment at the start, the 2, they could have a backup person so that they could always be there. So did this survey go out to the backup people also, which means they had double the voice in this survey, as opposed to every other group and business in there where there's only been 1?
Mark.
Thanks, Barbara. When we went out to Nairn River, we got a collective response email because they never filled in the actual survey. They gave us a big email around all the questions. A lot of the responses could have actually been answered within the survey. So we got a collective response from Nairn River. Nairn West, we got responses from them as well. The reason that was something that came at the very start, and this thing, because some of the business has become around the sort of governance and legal challenges, political aspects, you know, it would bog down the meeting if we had 2 representatives there. And I think, in fairness across the board, it's 1 representative for each group. Now, if the community council will make a decision, they have a nominated person, but they do it on a rota basis, or, you know, as long as it's 1, I think that'd be really positive. And, you know, I want to be really clear as well. I'm really keen to build that relationships with the community councils and how we move this forward, and how the community council's representation is within it. So there will be further discussions around that. You know, I've really appreciated their input from it, which has been, you know, helpful for me, and working with community councils is something I need to do in my role, community development manager role. So I hope that clarifies where we're going with that.
Okay, and we're kind of challenged with the space at the table as well.
Yeah, Barbara. I think that allowing at the initial meetings to 2 members from the community council was an accommodation and a learning curve. That learning curve has been achieved, and the backup now knows the way the operation of it. We certainly don't want 2 representatives from any organisation that becomes skewed, it becomes top heavy, and it's not representative. So there will be 1 member of each community council going forward, whether that's the designated person on a rotating basis or the substitute. There's 1 member from each community council. So we haven't heard much from Councillor Fraser for technical reasons. Laurie, is Laurie wishing to?
I had my consensus. Not hearing this. Hang on. Right. Yeah, I had my concerns to start with. And
See,
it wasn't.
He just needs to mute his laptop because it's feeding back and forth.
Are we making a decision on that point today, or is this going to further discussion? Are you engaging with them or what? Because that is a thing in the survey, and you know, you're putting it in as part of number 3, how it's going forward. Yeah. So what is the action for that point?
The plan is that we would meet, and there's a date in the diary we put in already to reconvene the group on the back of agreement today. So we will meet the group later in June, review the terms of reference, and review how we take things forward based on the recommendation today. You know, that's based on recommendation if you go with 1, 2 or 3.
Okay, so that's going back to the group with the terms of reference review.
Right, yes. Babs, well,
I'm clear now.
Laurie.
Thank you.
Laurie.
Right, just a quickie eye. Sorry about all that. Did a complete download and upload and side load there. Yeah, it worked fine. I think once the first 2 or 3 meetings were done, and all the sort of the legal experts and the common good experts had their say, it started quieting down, and it actually became a bit more positive. Whether you want to continue on to say with the community council membership, I think that's up to yourself. It probably wouldn't do any harm to keep them going, and I think we could run it for another year.
Yep.
It's been well attended, and I do think it's somewhat positive. It's not turned out well. The first early meetings were a bit, I felt, overboard, but the last 1 or 2 were actually quite good. Respect to community partnership, I tend to find that it's groups and organisations turning up with their plans, and they just want them confirmed. Why they don't bring them to the council, which I think they used to do, or to the local committee, I don't really know. They seem to go through these partnership meetings now. And as Paul said, some of them are from out with, or a lot of them are out with, and you sort of wonder, are they actually relevant to Nairn? Anyway,
Okay,
that's
guys.
just my takes on these things.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay, Laurie, thanks for that. We're had a fair discussion on this. I think there seems to be a consensus for going for option 2. Would we agree the recommendation that the review of the Nairn Common Good Engagement Group and its findings, and agree option 2 as set out in section 7.5? Are we agreed with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Laurie? Yeah, okay, that's great. Thanks, guys. We had a fair discussion on that. Okay, we'll now go on to 5B, which is the Common Good Fund allocation over 10,000. Mark, if you could give us a very brief take on this, if you've additional points to make.
Thanks, members. So we received our annual award discretionary application from the Nairn Highland Games. Traditionally, in the last couple of years,
Sorry, Mark. Can I just interrupt and check? Councillor Fraser, are you leaving for this item?
Yeah, I can leave. Give me a shout. The moment I'm not on screen, I'm trying to do something else.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
on screen, Laurie.
You actually need to leave the meeting, Councillor
Right, give me a
Fraser.
shout. I'll go down the corridor. Okay.
Okay.
Right, thank you for that. Apologies, I slipped up on that. Okay, Mark.
thanks. As I said, traditionally, the last couple of years, the Games Committee have come forward with a application to the Events Festivals budget, which is had an allocation of 3,500 towards the setting up of the Games. Traditionally, the Games has been supported and set up through our own resources, and this year we do not have the resource to do so. This application has come in for £12,000, seeking support, addressing the resourcing gap in the event setup. So the award of this funds will go solely towards the Games, being set up for the week and on the day. What I would highlight as well is as we move forward, we would continue work with the Games around that funding and how that works, and obviously work them are becoming more self-sustainable. But essentially, we don't have approval in our agreed budget to pay out the £12,000, and that £12,000 would come from our income from the Games week that we have. So it's money that's already been generated. It wouldn't come from reserves. So to be clear, members, it's just with it being over £10,000, it has to come to committee. And I take your views as we go forward.
Okay, I see Paul's hand up. Paul.
Yeah, it did worry me a bit to begin with, but then I was thinking back. We have agreed that our plan is for next year they will be running our income streams directly themselves. So this is essentially, if we look at it rationally, this is a lot of ways just bringing this forward a year. The one balances out the other pretty nicely, I think, in terms of the income from the games and the stores. So it seems a perfectly sensible proposal to me. I've got no problem with it.
No, okay, thanks, Paul. No, I agree. It's a sensible transition is what we're doing. There was an amazing amount of work done Mark, and especially Ali Garrow, who was really hands-on, really above and beyond. And that's not sustainable. That's not the role but the development officer was there for. So it had to come to this in transition. Lynn Staines did a remarkable and is doing a remarkable job with the traders area. So that's 2 has been handed over to the Nairn Games Committee to run. So congratulations and thanks to those for the efforts that they put in. And I think this is a very sensible move in this year of transition. So Babs, have you anything to say on this, or have we just agree the recommendation?
Yes, just, echo the thanks to Ali. Massive help, especially on the day.
Yeah.
That seeing to block toilets really wasn't in the job description, but the man does go above and beyond. And it's the Nairn Games as a mainstay of Nairn. And people really need to go and join that committee and help. Everyone loves it, but they could really do with some more members in there. Would be great, but it sounds a good plan and great to support.
Yes. And I think that in effect this year, the Nairn Common Good is the main sponsor of the Nairn Highland Games. And that message has to go out loudly and clearly. The Nairn Common Good is the main sponsor. Mark.
Yeah, just to highlight as well in section 5.9, just in talking about this transitional year, the conversation will continue well after the games as well, how that transitional year will look and what the plans are for next year in terms of taking on the Traders Village and taking on the setup of the game. So it's just that's work in progress at this point, and there's no full agreement with the Games Committee and how that looks as of yet. But it's just worth pointing out as well. So supporting this great event is something that would be really good for the Nairn and Nairnshire.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll move 5B. We'll move to the recommendation, and the committee is invited to agree £12,000 from the Nairn Common Good Fund to support the Nairn Games as per the application Appendix 1 of the report. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Now, delighted to welcome Councillor Fraser back. We'll wait till he comes back in and we'll move on. We certainly can't have a housing report without Councillor Fraser. So I'll wait till Mark, you might have to go and get him.
Yeah, I'll go and find.
Right. While Mark goes to get Councillor Fraser, I would say we're delighted to have Jonathan Henderson, housing manager, who does so much valuable work for Nairn and is a great friend of Nairn. There's been changes to the team, and Lee Marchie is changing roles, and we thank Lee for all his good work and wish him well in his new role. And would like to welcome Christine McKenzie, who's Lee's replacement as part of Jonathan's housing team. So that was going to slide seamlessly into Councillor Fraser's reappearance. Unfortunately, that's not happened as yet. So you'll just have to bear with me for a moment or two till Councillor Fraser appears.
He's en route.
He's en route. That's an encouraging development. Okay. Yes, I see Councillor Fraser reappearing.
Let me do this laptop. Hang on. There
Yep, we can hear you, Laurie.
That's it. I'm back.
And we can see you. That's great. So I've just, Laurie, just to fill in, I've welcomed Jonathan and Lee's replacement, Christine. So without further ado, we'll hand over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I think it's still morning. Yeah, you've stolen my thunder a bit there, Councillor Green. I was going to make a grand introduction of Christine. So Christine's with me today, just in a just to see how things work, and henceforth Christine is going to be taking over the presenting of both the committee reports and also attending ward business meetings and the like. Yeah, Lee's moved on to another role in the department, so we should thank him for all his hard work in the time that he's been in Nairn. He's moving to an investment role in the housing department, so he's still going to be in the department. But I'm delighted to have Christine in place, and over the course of the next couple of weeks, we're just going to sort of have a kind of extended handover. You know, Lee will obviously have a lot that he needs to pass across, but yeah, we're ready to go. So if it's okay, I'll maybe just highlight 2 or 3 sections of the report and welcome any questions that members might have. So section 6 of the report, detailing the current rent arrears picture. I think table at 6.2 really does highlight across this year the really good work of the team in Nairn in terms of managing rent arrears. I was interested in Councillor Jarvie, you mentioned earlier on the welfare support team. So we work very closely with the welfare support team, and that kind of link there is definitely having a positive impact, and we can see that in the numbers there. So quite a dramatic drop from Q2 to Q4, which is a really positive picture and testament to the hard work of the team. I think it is important to say that has been achieved, and you can see at table 6.11 without a significant number of formal actions being taken, and without any evictions having taken place either. So really good work with the team there. I do like the table at 6.8. I think it gives a good illustration of kind of where the arrears are, you know, the different bandings. We've recently employed a new housing management assistant in Nairn as well. And then the new housing management assistant is going to be focusing in on the lower level rent arrears cases, because as you can see, in terms of numbers of cases, the lower banding significantly outweighs all the other bandings added together, frankly. And there's a really good opportunity there to work at a lower level, you know, to try and resolve these cases at an early stage. 7.3. The antisocial behaviour table, yeah, we're seeing good improvement there across the year. Members will note that the percentages have sort of broadly increased, and which is great to see. I would say, as you'll all be aware, antisocial behaviour cases can be tricky. They can be challenging. They can take some time to resolve. They can take a lot of resources, and sometimes it actually can be difficult to get any sort of resolution that is seen to be acceptable to parties involved. But we worked really hard, again, to try and address things at a low level, and also drawing in the resources we've got available with our antisocial behaviour investigating officer, if necessary, in cases where maybe it's a bit more significant or long-standing. 8.3, I think the table at 8.3 there just shows the number of homeless presentations in Nairnshire across the year. Fairly static. I mean, I think this graph probably it looks a little more kind of fluctuating than actually it is. I mean, I think there's maybe something we could do with the scaling there, because it's fairly consistent, you know, over time. And you'll see from Q3 to Q4 of this year, we've had 11 presentations in both of those quarters. So those are really just the couple of things I wanted to highlight, Chair, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you for that. Excellent report. And I see Paul's hand up. I'm sure Councillor Fraser will wish to speak, but Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jonathan, for the report. Also, thank you, Christine, for picking up casework with me, even as she starts a new job, and that's hopefully been resolved this week. So that's good. I did have a question on table 5 in 7.3. And I was struck that in Q1 you had 7 numbers and social behaviour cases reported and none were resolved. So does that 7 then, is that 7 then included in the 8 in Q2, was 8 new cases in quarter 2. It seems to be, it seems oddly presented. I'm not quite sure what the outcomes are of this in the way it's been presented.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Oldham. It's something that other members have kind of commented on, I suppose, across other committees as well. So we're actually in the process of adjusting and adapting that table to probably to make it look a bit more like the rent arrears table, which is quite clear quarter on quarter. What you see there is these numbers are cumulative. So in quarter 1 of this year, there were 7 cases reported. In quarter 2, there was 1 case reported. In quarter, etc., etc. So, but that's not kind of clearly obvious there. So we're going to adjust that table. I think what we will include here as well, and again, this is something that members have mentioned, is including the sort of actions that we've taken as well. So similar to the rent arrears side of things, what formal actions have we taken? How many? You know, how did it resolve? That type of thing. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds positive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Laurie, have you wished to make any comments?
Yeah, it's all a good news report. The only thing is, I do go back sort of 30 years to district council days when the total rent arrears was 15,000, but I think we're living in different times now, unfortunately. So no, it's in that respect, it's a good report. It's just a pity we can't get the rent arrears down to a district council standard. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Laurie. Okay, well, before we just move to the recommendation, I would just say again, thank you to Jonathan and Christine, one of the more responsive teams at Highland Council, and a pleasure to deal with you. And many thanks for your hard efforts in dealing with, in many instances, very tricky, difficult situations. It's very much appreciated. So we'll move to the recommendation, and the committee is invited to note.
Sorry, Michael.
Sorry, Babs, my apologies.
Sorry.
I didn't see him. You've moved position. You're now bottom left. It's Laurie's now bottom right. So it's all.
Oh.
I didn't see. My apologies on the screen.
That's not how it looks to me, but no, it's bizarre technology today. We just have to get on with it. Jonathan, so there's 735 houses and 204 are in arrears. So that's quite high. But it's under, the majority is under 500. So yeah, it's kind of looking like just 1 month's rent. Is that to do maybe with the way the system processes the amount, that this maybe isn't a true figure, or is it a true figure? It just seems awfully high when people can have standing orders, direct debits and things for that to go like that. Do people still walk in to physically pay rent at all? I don't know, is that still a thing? We are rural, so maybe people aren't connected to be able to do it like that. The other thing is time spent in temporary accommodation. So is that's really high, 223 days. That is so high. So does that cost more than somebody in a rented properly? So the temporary accommodation, does that include scatter flats, or is that like hotels maybe putting them to Inverness while they're waiting for their place in Nairn? Because I know there is a shortage in Nairn. And what was the other thing? The how many properties? I know I'm actually really impressed with the turnaround when a house is vacated, how quickly you get somebody back in there, how you renovate it up to the standard for people to move in. I think it's really quick. So commendation there, without a doubt, to that team. And how many properties do we have that are in Nairn that we're paying half council tax on, that are not being used, that need renovation?
Okay, thanks, Babs.
And what's the plan for those houses? Because I know there is.
Well, I'll not speak for Jonathan, but you may have to come back to you with that level of detail. But Jonathan, if you can address the points raised by Councillor Jarvie.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Green and Councillor Jarvie. So yeah, I think taking the final question first, I suppose I'm assuming or presuming that you're talking about private properties that are empty. So perhaps that's maybe more a question for colleagues in council tax. Perhaps we do have an empty homes officer in the department, however. And what I'll do is I'll pass on my contact details for the empty homes officer to get in touch with you and have a chat through that. Temporary accommodation.
I believe it was 10, 11 houses, council houses that are empty. That's empty, and that's in Nairn.
Right.
If that could be clarified.
I'll have a look at that and I'll come back to you on that if that's okay. Temporary accommodation, yeah, the table at 8.7, that graph represents the kind of average across Highland. So
okay,
it takes account of all instances of temporary accommodation, and the benchmark at the top of 223 days. That's the kind of national benchmark. And whilst 205 days in temporary accommodation is too long, it is significantly under the national averages that exist at the moment. So we're always working to bring instances of homelessness to a close as swiftly as possible. And the way that we do that is to try and prioritise allocations to move people on from temporary accommodation. Now, you're right to say that in some instances, temporary accommodation is slightly more expensive than what the mainstream alternative would be. So it's to everybody's interests, and no more so for the applicant themselves, to be in a settled outcome as quickly as possible. But that figure of 205 days is a Highland average. We're not. They haven't split that down into the kind of local areas yet. Interesting question about the rent arrears. Yes, you probably, if you looked at the different committee reports across Highland, that picture, that pattern is pretty consistent. Where you have a significantly higher number of cases in arrears at the lower level than the higher level. Now, some of those arrears sadly might go on to become higher level arrears cases just through lack of engagement or something like that. But a lot of them maybe could be a delay in us receiving payment, for instance. So there's sometimes maybe where somebody is relying on universal credit housing element, let's just say, to assist with the rental costs. That can take 6 weeks, let's just say, to process. So we're always going to hold that kind of account in arrears until such time as that's been cleared, and that's a pretty constant that's a pretty constant issue across all areas, sadly.
Okay, because that's a high number. Okay, so it's the processing of fund money.
In some instances, yes.
Yes. Okay, thanks for that.
Right. Thanks for that, Jonathan. I don't see any other hands up, so we'll thank you and to you and Christine, and we'll just go to the recommendation. The committee is invited to note the information provided on housing performance in the period 1st April 24 to 31st of March 25. So noted. Agreed?
Great.
Noted.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and good
Okay,
luck, Christine.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 7, which is the Nairn Academy Associated School Group Overview, and it's always a pleasure to welcome Fiona Shearer. Do I see Fiona Shearer?
Yeah, I'm here, Chair.
I do.
Thank you.
Seen it,
Morning,
yes.
everyone.
I see you now, Fiona. Your bottom left, Babs is now middle right. It's like a team here. We've got 11 players in play. So you're the left back, Fiona, in my screen. So we'll move over to yourself. There's a lot of detail in the report there. I don't think you really need to speak to it unless there's anything you want to highlight.
No.
And okay.
I've just got a couple of points. That was all. If that's okay, Chair.
Yes,
so
by the way.
The report does contain a lot of information. It was just really to kind of highlight some of the primary data to you, because that's been updated since I was last with you. You'll obviously see there how the schools rate themselves through their own self-evaluation and their standards and quality reports. And in terms of inspections, I think it's Aldern Primary and Nairn Academy. They have not been inspected now for over 5 years. So the links, Education Scotland don't publish reports if they're more than 5 years old, but the links are there in the report for your information. Overall, in the primary schools, the data shows that all primary schools attendance is above national and Highland average, and the secondary school data is in line with the national and above the Highland average. But that is from 2022-23 school session at this stage in the report. And in the attainment overview for the primary schools, almost all schools within the ASG now perform in line with or above the national and Highland average across all measures, and the trend is showing an improving picture. Officers are continuing to link in with each of our schools regularly and focusing in on school improvement planning, standards and quality, and so on. There is a lot of information, and as I've said previously, you know, any kind of conversations or follow-ups we're happy to have with you, with officers and head teachers attending. And then there can be a more in-depth discussion around individual schools in the local context. And just to note as well that you'll also be aware our service is going through a restructure. So there will be some changes, and there'll be more information shared with members at the Education Committee on the 4th of June. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. Before I come to Councillor Oldham, I would just, my main concern is the poor performance of Millbank as evidenced by table 9.1. Is there any background or give us some sort of more detail on this? Because that's an area of concern.
So there has been progress over time in most of the measures. Reading, hang on, I had this highlighted, here we go. Yeah, so there is an improvement in reading, slight dip in writing since last year, and a big improvement listening and talking, and numeracy is the same. So as I say, the officers that have been linking in with the school, the collaborative lead officers, they're in there regularly working with the school around the data and around, so we're looking at learning and teaching, we're looking at any training that's being delivered across schools. The Nairn schools work really well together as an associated schools group. So they quite often will have a shared improvement priority, and then it gives opportunities for staff to be working not just in their own school, but in the other schools across the ASG as well, and people can share practice, and they sometimes have projects or development priorities that they're working on together as an ASG. And I think that's led to some of the improvements that we've seen. So they're definitely an ASG that works very well together in terms of sharing practice, and that will continue. With the restructure, as I say, there'll be more detail to come, but you'll be aware that AQIMs are going to be in place. So there'll be an update on all of that at Education Committee, and those officers will continue to work really quite closely. There'll be one point of contact then for the school who'll be supporting in terms of the operational, but also in terms of the improvement agenda as well.
Okay, so would I be right in assuming from what you're saying is that the current figures would be indicate a better position than the figures that are presented to us today?
Those are the 23-24 figures. That's the latest that we have. So we would be continuing to work on that for obviously the end of, we're coming to the end of the school session. Yes, I don't have the current figures as they are at the moment. But that's the most up-to-date data that we have for each of those schools. But it's an ongoing cycle of,
yes, you
know, support and challenge for schools, and a cycle of school improvement planning for them as an individual school, but also, as I say, working across the ASG.
Yes. Again, I come to the point I was making is that you're aware that there is an issue of underperforming in relation to the other schools in the area, and I know there's a more challenging demographic that they have, but you're happy and confident that the resources that have been put in to address these issues should bear fruit, shall we say?
Yes,
in the next
absolutely.
Report.
Yeah, Millbank are working really well. They did have a good inspection when they were recently inspected. I think it's a couple of years ago now, and we continue to build on that. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Fiona, for the report. I had a couple of comments. I think positive generally. I mean, I was pleased to see we compare very well especially nationally, but even work with the rest of Highland, some things like absences and exclusions. I think for me, the table that really matters is the one at on page 52, which is destinations, because fundamentally what we're really concerned about is what people get out of their education. I think there we can be very pleased with what we're seeing, and that we're doing better in Highland overall in terms of percentage of pupils are going to higher education and further education. The only thing I'm a bit disappointed by, and I know this is often the problem with Highland Council, is that table is looking at the most recent data, 22-23. So we don't have data for 23-24. So we're looking back 2 years, well, for the best part of 2 years. I know this is always a problem, but if there's anything that can be done to ensure that we are getting tables, at least for the last academic year, as opposed to 2 academic years ago, that would be good. But that was all. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that's just a timing issue at the time of year that we're at. And you will get that data as soon as it's published, or once we've collated it. This is the most up-to-date report that I was able to pull for today. But that's one of the things that I've been discussing with managers, is around the sort of frequency of when officers will come to your committees going forward, and trying to get that in line. And it's getting that cycle of reporting in line with when we have the published data, so that you've got the most up-to-date figures, which is really why today my main focus was around the primary attainment, because the last time I was with you, we didn't have that data, and we do have that now. So yeah, you will get that information as soon as we have it all collated. But I would agree, positive destinations is a really important one, and there's work ongoing around that, around it's not just about them. How do we track that? And it's not just about them, well, they've left school, they've got a job, but things change. Are they still, what are they doing 6 months later, and so on? So what is that? Is that really a positive destination, or has something changed? So we are working at how we track that, and that's a national thing as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jarvie.
Okay, you've literally just answered one of my questions there, Fiona, about they're going on to work, but actually it's dropped. We have less than a quarter go on to employment. That's astounding. But they're going on to higher education, further education, and the numbers that are staying on in year 6, that halves the class. And I wonder, do we know, are these kids moving on to like UHI or online courses or something, and trying to resit exams they didn't get in school? Have they lost confidence in school? I don't know, because the year 6, that's where you get your major leadership stuff, and you're doing the opportunities for advanced hires and intense grounding that opens doors to so many careers, even if they don't go straight on to that. I mean, both my kids had enough of school, but they stayed on to year 6, took a year out, and then they did uni after they had fun time, but they both did well. But it's just, we need to ensure all kids leave with as much potential to open as many doors as they possibly can. And I think we need more detail about how that's tracked. And as you say, seeing, 6 months, a year later, where did that path go? Did they actually do anything with the subjects they sat, or were there barriers, like not the courses at UHI here, and they've gone away because this is why we're depopulating? They're leaving because there isn't the opportunities on our doorstep here, and we've got massive opportunities with Aventus and things coming up. The school leavers achieving numeracy and literacy, geez, we're doing 83%, 90%. Geez, they all have to be able to read and write. What support is there for these kids? And it doesn't say if that's leavers in year 5 or year 6.
Okay.
They can go early. So that's quite important to know. We need to ensure that every child has got the basics to open doors, or they can't even apply for a job. That's actually really worrying. That.
Okay, Babs, I think there's
not done yet.
Okay,
not done yet.
If you could be brief, because there's a lot of points to answer there.
It's our schools.
Okay.
Right. So Codder, really, yet again, very good. I think that's what we've had every report out of Codder. And I know, speaking to James up there, that not all of the kids at Codder School are rural Codder kids. They're from other areas as well. And he's still, you know, that group of teachers up there, whatever system that is used up there really needs radiated out. And I know this is 23-24, and I know there's been 2 new head teacher at Aldern and at Millbank, so it maybe doesn't reflect what they've been doing there, because these reports are so far behind. So that's a shame. But the Rosebank one we had in at the ward, which was really nice to see. How has I asked about working more with parents, to include parents more in the learning, parents that you know, Bromfenberger, parents as the first educator. That was something that needed worked on. I wondered if that had progressed positively. And has the hole in the carpet and the hole in the playground been fixed yet? That would be, you know, cheer up the classroom, because it was pretty bad. You know, things need to look appealing. Oh, going forward, I looked at your role forecast. Now that's going to change with Delnies. I imagine this was produced way before the whole Delnies planning thing, because we've got up to 2040. So, but that's we're not gonna know till next year. But it is family houses, so it's quite likely that will go up, because you've got the school roll dropping from your 700 down to 488. So that is, you know, something needs put in there to flag up. This is going to be way off and unpredictable at this point, really, isn't it? Which is, it's going to undo your work there, I'm afraid.
Okay, Babs, thanks for that. Some good points raised. Fiona?
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Yes, so in terms of the pupil destinations and the school leavers information, I think that would maybe be the best conversation there is to speak to Julie McDonald, and she would be able to tell you in far more detail than I can around all the work that the school are doing. There's so many opportunities for our young people now. You know, it's absolutely hires and advanced hires are very important, but there's so many more opportunities for them in terms of our modern apprenticeships. There's a number of pupils who do attend UHI. You know, they go on a Friday and they can build up to that, so they can remain in school and then have those early links with UHI as well. So I'll speak to Julie about that, and I'm sure she'd be delighted to come in and to speak to you about that in more detail. Codder, yes, lots of success there and very good data for them again, and good feedback. Recently, I think I shared with you a report from a care inspected pilot that took place there, which was a very positive letter as well. In terms of their numbers, yes, they do have a high number of placing requests in, but once they're in Codder, they're Codder pupils. So, you know, once they're there, they're enrolled, and their address, you know, doesn't really matter. That's parental choice where people want to send their children to. So they're very much part of Codder School once they're there. Rosebank, I shared with you the final letter. They've been signed off from Education Scotland, and they've made good progress. I would stress the amount of work that the team at Rosebank and the ELC and the school have been doing over the past couple of years has just been fantastic. It's been a challenging time for them, but they've all really pulled together, and things have made, you know, they've made really good progress. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure about including parents or what work has been done there, but I can find out and we can get an update from Lisa there. But I'm sure that has been happening. Again, I don't know about the carpets. I think, as I'd said, that's devolved to school. So Lisa, when you contacted me about that, I did follow up with Lisa, and she said she was looking at getting that replaced. And linking in with our estates teams around the playground issues there.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say the school roll forecast, the link that's in the report is the most up-to-date school roll forecast. Delny's will have been factored into that, as far as I'm aware.
It is.
I would need to check. I would need to check with the team that do that. But they publish our school roll forecasts every year, and they're published on the website. So I would imagine that is factored in. In terms of the housing at Delny's, I think as we said the last time, it's I had thought it was a 1.3 of a child per household is what's counted. I think it's now 0.24 of a child. I'd need to check that number. So although there's 300 houses, it's not necessarily hundreds of children that we would forecast, but obviously things change and we would adapt that. But there is capacity within Millbank and Rosebank at the moment.
Okay, and what is the model for the ASN allocation going forward before we get bombarded in a couple of weeks' time with why is my child not getting its support? Because the formula is unbelievably unfair.
So the
It's
formula
just a
hasn't
potluck.
changed. Members agreed that, and it was a 3-year. Members asked for a 3-year review at the time in 2022, or 2023. And we're in the 3rd year of that cycle now. So the ASL allocations have been for the coming session have been worked on, and that will be shared with schools in the next wee while. So that information will be going out.
Okay, so sorry, when is the 3rd year up?
I think we're
Is
coming
it
into the 3rd
This
year
August.
now.
So
Coming
it's
into the
another
3rd year
to go.
When it was agreed at committee, members asked for it to be reviewed after 3 years.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Okay, Babs, I think you've had your questions answered, whether you're satisfied answers, that's to yourself.
Not with that one, no, because it isn't working clearly, but that's we could go on and on. That's one for that committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a
so.
specific Nairnshire one. It's obviously Highland wide. What I would say
Yes.
is the resource hasn't reduced, the overall resource, as far as I'm aware. I'm not directly involved with the allocations now. I used to be in the past, but my understanding is that the overall resource has not reduced, and the allocations, as I say, have been worked on. But because we were in that 3-year cycle, it was a phased approach to it. So some of the changes in the 1st year, 2nd year, so it's not, we're almost 100% into the model is my understanding, but I would need to check the details on that.
Okay, thanks, Fiona. Laurie, have you anything you wish to say?
Only 1 point. 5.2, the standards and quality reports. Corner Primary School comes out very good, very good, very good. Can you actually get outstanding? That is the first question. The second one is, I noticed that Rosebank, 1 minute it's all satisfactory, and then further down it goes good, good, very good, and good. I'm not too sure what the differences are there, because you've got one is school, one column is school, the other one's ELC.
One's school and one is nursery. So the top one at 5.2
nursery,
is school,
sorry.
and then our primary schools will have a different standards and quality and self-evaluation for nursery. So in actual fact, that was the school's own self-evaluation at that stage, but you'll be aware from the paid inspector report, I think the grades were actually very good at Rosebank. And at Codder, this was the same. This is the school's own standards and quality report. So this is their own grading of their through self-evaluation of where they feel they're at. And the Codder report from Education Scotland verified that. The next grade up, and we use the same gradings that Education Scotland would use. So the next one would be excellent, is what we would say.
Oh, we just can't get the excellent.
Well, Codder was very close, I would say.
Dear.
It was, yeah. There's not a huge number of schools. I don't know the number, but it's not common. You don't often see excellence, and when you do, we would absolutely be celebrating it. Yeah.
That's a shame. That's very sad.
Okay, that's fine. Fiona, thank you for that. We'll move to the recommendation. The committee is invited to scrutinise and note the contents of the report. Noted?
Noted.
That's fine. Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you, members. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, we'll now move on to item 8, which is bereavement services. We're delighted to have John McLean here, fresh from his weekend of triumph with Aberdeen Football Club. So well done to the Dandy Dons, and we'll hand over to John for a brief overview at any points he wants to make before we open to the discussion. John.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, members. Yep, voice a little bit hoarse today, but never mind. Yep, I'll just be brief. There's not too much to go through here, but the report here is just an update to members on the work undertaken by the bereavement services on burial ground capacity within the Nairnshire area. The team review the burial ground capacity when there's less than 10 years based on past trends. Information on burials and layer sales is monitored on a weekly basis following submission from bereavement admin teams. Appendix 1 provides a breakdown of the layer availability and the capacity data for the burial grounds within the Nairnshire area. Just a quick point on 6.3, that just shows some of the challenges we face throughout Highland with looking for new burial grounds or extensions. And again, referring back to Appendix 1 in Nairnshire, there's only the present Nairn Cemetery, which is less than 10 years remaining capacity. At the moment, we've got it listed there as 4.4 years of prepared layers, but following investigatory work, additional space has been identified to create possibly up to 150 layers. This would increase anticipated capacity to over 10 years. And with this additional capacity, we'd be able to reintroduce pre-purchasing of layers within the present Nairn Cemetery. Bereavement Services team will continue to engage with local members on projects in the area, and their ongoing support is appreciated, and happy to take any questions.
Right, I'll go round. I'm not seeing hands up. I think it's very much a case, John, of just getting that information into the public domain so folk have confidence in the system. I don't think there's much more than that. I appreciate the report and various things. Paul.
Yeah, thanks, John. This isn't a criticism of you or indeed of any of the others, but it is in a slightly ridiculous situation where we're now saying we're going to have 10 years capacity of the current Nairn Cemetery, and the cemetery out on Granny Barber's Road was here when I moved to Nairn, so that's at least 8 years old, and presumably older than that. So it's going to be in existence for 20 years plus before we actually get into the air. I don't know why a decision was made, on what basis, but looking at it from here, you do have to wonder why the hell we did that. Anyway, that was all. Thank you.
I take the point, but we are where we are, Paul. But a valid point, well made. Laurie.
I think the reason was that we were told about 10 years ago there's only 5 years space left in the cemetery, but they've taken down some trees now. That's opened up the cemeteries. They've got a lot more room now. The only thing I would say to John was, I understand talking to ground maintenance, you want to take away the old fence at the bottom on the riverside part of the old fence. It's sort of collapsed and no good. I'd support that. I think it would just clean up the area a wee bit. The only thing I would ask you to do is repair the top fence, which is just a post and wire, but a couple of posts are rotted. Because I was around there the other day, and they'll tidy the place up. Thank you.
Okay, John.
Yep. With the new cemetery, totally agree with you. It's before my time. Not 100% sure but it was down to some information, and anyway, as the chair says, we are where we are. And then, yep, no problem at all with the fence, Laurie. We'll get that sorted out, and we'll get the top fence repaired.
Good
okay, Barbara.
Yeah, just echoing about that fence. Been waiting long enough. It's actually our guardian angels that keep tying bits up that are catching people. And also, please, the gate that has got graffiti on, that was an original gate, and we should really be protecting it. A coat of paint would, you know, it's quite historical. It would make it look good. And the fact that everyone's passing that to go to the Nairn show, and when there's events on in that field, looks really unwelcoming when there's abusive graffiti on it, you know. So, but otherwise, you're ready for the plague with your number of plots. But I think the pre-purchase thing is a great idea, a great promo, and it's very difficult when somebody dies, when you don't know what's happening, what to do with them. It's very sensitive for families. You want to get it right, but if there's a plan in place, it's really comforting, and you know you've got it right. So I think that's a good thing to promote.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. John,
Thanks.
any comments to make on that?
Not really, just exactly as you were saying with the introducing the pre-purchase and all layers, getting that information out. We'll do something on that, but we just wanted to make sure we took it to committee first.
Okay, no, that's fine. There's no more hands. John, thank you for that. And committee's invited to note 2 points: current capacities and progress of burial ground extensions in the Nairnshire area, and the challenges with identifying and developing suitable land for burial ground development. To note that, are we agreed? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you,
agreed.
John. Thank you.
Noted.
Right, thank you, members.
Sure, John. Get back to your celebrations now.
Right.
Okay, we'll move on to 9, and apologies, Ewan, it's been a bit of a wait, I'm sure, but we're now coming on to the place plan planning, our Nairnshire local place plan, an update from Ewan. Ewan.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Members will be familiar with the content and the development of the plan, the Nairnshire plan, from previous briefings and their involvement during its preparation. So today's report is presented as an update to clarify the purpose of the place plan and its status. That's both as a proposed local place plan under the Planning Act and also as an area place plan, and that's under the Council's commitment to developing a place-based approach across Highland that's involved preparation of non-statutory sub-regional plans for each area. So firstly, what is it? The plan's a statement of community views on potential opportunities for land use, development, investment. It's based on public engagement and workshops with local community stakeholders. It's been prepared by a grouping together of the community councils, the BID, and authored with the support of Planning Aid Scotland under the name of the Development Trust. Firstly, members are asked to note that when validated and registered as a local place plan, that's its potential role in statutory terms under the Planning Act, it would have a role in the planning system. Local place plans allow suitably constituted community groups to basically state their view on behalf of the public about future land use and buildings of significance. But as an area place plan, as part of that wider commitment to working with communities on opportunities for the future, we're suggesting that there's an opportunity to consider the views expressed also outside the planning system. And so members are asked to note that it's being presented as an area place plan, and that therefore there's an opportunity to consider the views stated by the community. We're keen to make clear that adoption does not mean there's an explicit commitment for the council to deliver the projects identified within the plan. However, the views that are stated can be given regard in normal decision-making processes. Lastly, as an area place plan, members are asked to adopt the plan as one source of evidence of community priorities in that regard to inform future decision-making. And to conclude, the key thing to take regard to is the potential role for the plan, most importantly, as a mandate for the community to come together around delivering on local priorities. It can help any and all groups in Nairnshire to make the case for securing funding to deliver projects that the community have identified as important to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ewan, and thank you for the work you've done on behalf of preparing this plan. I'm sure it's been onerous and challenging at times, but we're appreciative of what you've done, and also I'd pay thanks to the team at NICE again for the hard work and time devoted to bringing this plan to fruition. Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I should start by saying there are a lot of good things in this plan, and it does provide one source of ideas for ways forward within Nairnshire, which is a good thing. However, I was disappointed by the statutory consultation of elected members, which is mentioned in 7.1. I don't know about other members, but my comments were just ignored, which is why Kingsteps Quarry, which I mentioned in the good news at the start of this meeting, is not in the plan, despite it being a well-used part of the Green Network. Instead, sadly, some of my other comments were not only rejected, but were used by an anonymous poster who had clearly had sight of my comments and misinterpreted them to defame me on Facebook, which is disappointing. It does make me wonder how other people's comments were handled. Anyway, although this plan shouldn't be regarded as definitive by any means, I do look forward to groups using it as evidence of proposals they want to bring forward for Nairnshire in the future. I understand that other members may have suggestions to change what we're agreeing, but I'll look forward to seeing what I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Do you want to address that point? Is there a chance to modify the comments to reflect Councillor Oldham's concerns, Ewan?
It's important to make sure that members are aware that a local place plan is very much at the discretion of the community group that's prepared it. The statutory process that was undertaken by the Trust was overseen by a steering group, which included community representatives from each of the community council areas, with a proxy for Nighty Hall for that area. We all recognise that there's going to be disagreement at times, and I would suggest that, as Councillor Oldham has highlighted, there are strengths within the plan. It was an enormous volume of comment that came back at that final stage, which the Trust was bold enough to open up to the public as well as the members. So they went beyond the requirements that were imposed by the Planning Act and the regulations for local place plans. But yes, challenging. Nevertheless, the content in terms of it being a local place plan is very much at the discretion of the Trust as a community control group in terms of the Community Empowerment Act and planning legislation.
Okay, thank you for that, Ewan. I don't see hands up from Councillor Fraser or Councillor Jarvie.
I'll put up.
Oh yeah, Councillor Fraser.
I just thought you were going to come round in rotation, but I somewhere I'm disappointed. Croy got one done for about, was it £1,500, £3,000. And the interesting thing was, I think they included Loch Flemington, which is in our one as well, but not in our ward. And I look at the cost of ours was about £31,000, £32,000. I could have had a footpath put in at Sainsbury's at Household Terrace for that, or repaired the footpath down at the links, or put some finger posts up. So, but I'm a bit concerned that it's not as it's going to be looked on as statutory when it's actually not. So I don't want it to end up as something that we're going to have our heads beaten over the head with sticks. So I'd be quite happy if we just noted the plan. That's my take on this.
Well,
okay.
we have addressed the issues amongst ourselves, and we have got in the modified recommendation on point 3 as that we're agreeing to adopt one as one source of evidence. So I think that goes a long way to addressing the concerns you've raised, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Jarvie.
So sorry, was that with did you see that amendment there?
Yes, I've got that.
So that's what we're going with.
Shall I put it into the chat? So everybody's got that.
All right, I'm not seeing
I've seen it already. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm happy with it.
I'll read that out at the end of it.
Right. Okay. Yes. No, it's just to encourage people and from other walks of life in Nairn. Anyone can take any part of the plan forward. It is not owned by any particular person, not even the body that did a lot of hard work, an awful lot of hard work. I saw the efforts made. It was an awful lot of hard work, but it is Nairn's plan for everybody in Nairn, and anyone can take any bit forward and should be supported. They can join any existing group to take it forward. A community council can take part of it forward, as happens in other places, or they can form their own group, and they need to know that the support is there. You know, come to your contact a councillor, your ward manager, there's HIE, there's lots of sources of funding, and we really want to see the local place plan take off and not be another dust collector document. So people need to feel that they can take any part of it forward.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, if Barbara is proposing the amendment which I put into the chat, which I believe is the one that she mailed to me, then
Yes.
I'm happy to second her on that proposal.
Thank you,
Okay.
Paul.
Right. I'll read out the amendment. It is the one that we agreed, the third option. I think the point, before I come to the sort of change in the third point, is that yes, I think we're agreed that, you know, there's been an awful lot of hard work. They've created a local place plan, and it's important in determining how Nairn moves ahead. But the key to this is that it's one source of evidence of how we move ahead. There are others that will feed into this process, but it's very much about how the plan is taken forward, and that appears the model that we want to support and what's actually happening and which is achievable is for individual groups, organisations, association to take ownership of a specific project and to move that forward, because it's got to come from the community. They've got a plan and they've done a wonderful job in creating this plan, the matrix, which is the defining document. Down it goes, it's there. It's up to individual groups to set that priorities to take it forward. And that's important that we get that point across. So I think it's important that I read out the recommendations in detail so we know exactly what they are. So I'll go to first one. Note, our Nairnshire is both a local place plan under national planning legislation and an area place plan in line with Highland Council's place-based framework for planning and investment in communities. Second point, note that when validated and registered as a local place plan by Highland Council's Development Plans team, the plan will be taken into account as a source of evidence alongside other sources of evidence in preparation of the Highland Local Development Plan, HLDP, required by the Planning Scotland Act 2019. Now, where we change from what was in the original paper to come to what we've agreed, which is in the chat and which we've agreed is agree to adopt the plan as one source of evidence of community aspiration to inform wider decision making about spatial planning, service delivery, options for asset management, development and investment towards the continuous improvement and well-being of the Nairn and Codder ward. We look forward to any community groups, either currently or newly formed, to take forward any projects for the enhancement of the ward. So, are we agreed to note points 1 and 2 and agree to adopt on point 3 on the basis I've outlined?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's fine. Okay, Ewan, thank you again. Thank you for all the hard work for all involved. It's very much appreciated.
Thank
okay,
you.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming up to just a minute to go for 12 o'clock. We've just got to agree the minutes of the committee on the
no, we're just noting them.
Sorry, just noting the committee minutes on the 10th of February 25.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Right, thanks guys. Good committee. Thank you.